Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with me today is Liz Murray, the midlife coach and guiding midlife women to live their very best lives. Liz is a transformational coach with a deep-rooted passion for guiding midlife women to live their very best lives, because it is never too late to make changes and align your life with what matters to you. In fact, midlife brings with it a wealth of experience, knowledge, and wisdom that is so unique and valuable that it is the perfect time to become the woman you've always wanted to be. Welcome to the show, Liz. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, how did you get started with this? I'm assuming you are also a midlife woman, as am I.
I am indeed, yes. Thank you for that. Yes, no, absolutely. So, well, it's kind of been sort of a theme throughout my life, really, sort of the being within the coaching psychology side of things. I did psychology at university, mainly because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I thought I'll do what I'm interested in. And then spent, after that, many years flying around the world as cabin crew for Emirates and British Airways, but then trained as a counsellor whilst I was with British Airways. So I was really lucky, which I think you would call a therapist in the States. So I was really lucky that they gave me dispensation to train at the same time as flying, which was, for me, the perfect combination. Then after I finished flying, I went through I was caught up in the September the 11th attacks, and it kind of, after that, one thing led to another, and I decided that flying was no longer for me. Loved the therapy side, but really wanted to do something more forward thinking, looking to the future. So then trained as a life coach 20 odd years ago, when the industry was very different from what it is now. Which I absolutely loved. Took time out to be a full-time mum, and then came back. So I'd reached midlife and realised that you see a lot of your peers, people around you, have all of these things happening, and maybe sort of loss of confidence, things like that. And I thought, you know what? It called me back into coaching, and so about 4 years ago I came back into coaching, but this time coaching midlife women.
I love that.
Yeah,
Midlife women we were just laughing about fried green tomatoes and Kathy Bates, and you just reach a point in life where you can either look around and think, oh, my life is done, I'll just sit in front of television, eat bonbons, and die. Or you can think, oh, wow, there's so much opportunity right now. The kids are done. Husband is maybe retiring or, winding up his career. He doesn't really need me to do all the things. He can live some of his life by himself too.
absolutely. Yeah, and because we've got a longer lifespan now, we're spending more years in midlife now. So we're being given those extra 10, 20 years in midlife that previous generations didn't have. And also, we've got more opportunities as well, this generation that we're in now. So we're doubly privileged, really. So there is so much that we can now do, so much opportunity that we have to take advantage of that as well. So I do feel quite passionate about that.
Just the talk around menopause. When I first hit menopause back in my late 40s, it was, you couldn't find any information about it. You were just like out there on your own, wondering if these feelings would ever go away. And if you had period problems before that point, you're just like, oh God, is this ever going to end? And I now just that little piece of helping women. I know you're not a menopause coach, but there are menopause coaches out there, and the ability to get the information that you need to actually like take care of some of these issues, like being able to sleep better. If you can sleep better, you can think better. If you can think better,
Absolutely.
you recognize you have more choices and options. You're not trapped in this cycle of despair and fear,
Yeah,
quite
and
honestly.
feeling alone. Yeah, absolutely. And there is, thank God, so much more support now for midlife women and women going through menopause and approaching the menopause as well. Because it is, I mean, it was a very, very lonely time, and people just didn't address these issues, didn't sort of offer the support. So I'm a big cheerleader for menopause coaches and people that can support women through this time, because it's a massive, people talk about puberty, but menopause is also a massive time of transition as well. And there's a lot to manage. So I think it's great that we now have the conversations and we now have the support. It's
And
essential.
things like hot flashes, women used to hide them. Now they're kind of like a badge of honor. Hey, flame on.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll mention it, and another woman will go, oh, yeah, no way, I've been there, done that, and you don't feel so alone. It feels like that you're going through it together, and that is so important, really important, to not feel that isolation.
Yeah, and I think in the camaraderie of having the connections with people, and the internet is great for this. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Midlife women all have some things that we all go through in common, and it's a change in your life. But if you're going with other people and you have somebody to mentor you along the way, if you're new to it, or maybe you just woke up one day and realized that there's got to be more to life than this, and they approach somebody like you, and you can help them with.
But I can help them feel like themselves again. So it's just, and I do have the privilege now, because of the wonders of technology, of coaching women all over the world. And you are right that it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We have so many similar things in common, especially at this age group. And it is, so many women sort of find themselves in midlife and almost find like they've lost themselves. They've lost, and all those little sort of hopes and dreams and excitement of their 20s. And they kind of reach 40s and 50s and think, okay, is this it? How did I end up here? That wasn't the plan. What now? Is this it? Do I just, and I just feel so, I just want to get the message out there that no, this isn't it. This can be a new, exciting time of your life, and things can change. And it's an opportunity to do something new. Or even if you don't want to change your actual, the landscape of your life, you can feel very, very differently about your life, which is wonderful. And I consider it a privilege being able to help ladies be able to do that and feel so much better.
And it's just, there's subtle things, but once you understand how your thoughts, and it really starts with your thoughts, are impacting your life, and you make little changes over a period of time, the difference in the quality of your life and your relationships can change dramatically.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's to do with So your thoughts come from your beliefs, and so your subconscious beliefs run 95% of the show. So, and often we don't even know what our subconscious beliefs are, because they were formed at a point of trauma in our lives, whatever that might be. That might be a trauma with a big T or trauma with a very small t. And we form a belief around it, and we find that that's running our lives. So it might show up as somebody who can't verbalize their opinions in meetings. And that might have come from a point of trauma in their childhood where a teacher shouted at them for talking in class, and they form that subconscious belief it's not safe to talk in a group. But they don't realize it's there. So until you start doing the work and doing the subconscious work, you're not going to get the breakthroughs. But it is amazing if you start doing these tweaks and putting them into your life, how much your life can change. It's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. So what kind of modalities do you do with people? Do you do like hypnotherapy? Do you do,
So
what do you do?
So I do. I use coaching, but I use it with belief coding, and I also use positive psychology techniques. So I have a program called New Life Midlife, in which we use intensive belief coding, which is labeled as mind navigation. But what that basically is, we identify usually at least 60 limiting beliefs that are holding that person back, and then we change 60, that many.
Wow.
Okay. So this really is a life makeover, because what we're doing is, you're holding all these subconscious beliefs. So we identify that, and over a course of 3 sessions, we're healing those memories, healing those traumas, finding where they came from, and then we're imprinting new beliefs, new empowering beliefs. And then we go on to use positive psychology techniques, which are tailored to each person. Little things that they can implement in their lives as they go forward. And then, of course, they've got this completely new mindset at a subconscious level, as well as the positive psychology techniques. So then we go on to coach. And it's like, we've got this great new mindset now. What are we going to do with it? The exciting part happens. That's when the magic happens. So, it's really rewarding for me to do, and lovely to see the transformations.
So how long is your coaching program, and is it one-on-one or is it groups? How does all that look?
So New Life Midlife is a one-on-one, and it's a 10-week program. So that's all one-on-one time with me each week, with a little bit of reflection work in between for my clients to do in between. And it runs over that. And then if clients want to, they can carry on after that. But the program in itself is 10 weeks, which is combined with the mind navigation, the positive psychology, and the coaching.
Interesting. So I was going to ask you what beliefs coding was, and I think you kind of explained it, but can you just like pull that out and talk to me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so belief coding, it's a technique where it uses different modalities, actually. So it uses CBT, EFT, kinesiology, positive psychology. So it combines a lot of different modalities into a modality that, in my opinion, it uses all the best parts of those modalities, a little bit of NLP as well, so that you're identifying if somebody has a block, what that belief is, what is that negative belief that's holding them back. So to give a very simple one, if somebody's afraid of flying, the belief formed will be something along the lines of, it's not safe to fly. Something bad will happen to me if I'm going to fly. So you're identifying where that belief was formed using these various modalities, but it's a very specific way that it's done. So it's the same method that we're using each time. And then what we're doing is we're replacing those beliefs once the memory's healed with the new positive beliefs. And something like phobias can be that one session can completely change that phobia. So things like that are a little bit more involved, which will involve more than one belief, such as procrastination, confidence, those things, obviously, because there's more than one belief attached, will need more than one session, or they would need mind navigation, which is more in depth again. So it's fascinating. I discovered it. It's a very new modality, and I discovered it 2.5 years ago. And as soon as I heard it, I trained in it straight away. So I was one of the first people to be trained in it. It's a modality developed by a lady called Jessica Cunningham, and haven't looked back since. I use it in it's replaced everything else that I use in my coaching.
Is it kind of a quicker way to get to the root of the problem? Like,
Yes.
So it used to be we do therapy for hours and hours over years and years, and then maybe possibly we'd find out what that root cause was, and it was always your parents.
Yes.
Could save you all that money and tell you that's what the problem was.
Yeah, if in doubt.
But not necessarily. I think now we're beginning to understand that, we have these stories, and it was convenient to blame it on your mother years ago. But the reality is that we need to take responsibility for the things that we're believing, the things that we're allowing to run our lives, even if it's just in the background, it's programming. We formed those opinions. We formed those thoughts. Mother didn't come along and say, you have to believe this, or I'm doing this to you for your own good. She probably was doing it for our own good, trying to protect us in some way or another. But, even a bad mother isn't purposefully, unless they're really sick, trying to injure their child. But we do things because we're young as parents, primarily. And if you take responsibility for the thoughts that you formed, and the whatever you're doing in your subconscious, it starts with recognizing that you did this. You can fix it, but you did it. You have all the power.
We do, absolutely. And we have to remember as well, our parents and us as parents, everybody's only ever doing what they feel that they can do, their best they can do at the time. Everybody's just human. And so you're absolutely, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And our thoughts are not, a lot of people go through life thinking their thoughts are reality. They're not, they're fiction. They're made up by ourselves. And one person's reality can be very different from someone else's that's gone through the same experiences. So we absolutely do have to take responsibility for our mindset and the way that we're thinking, because it is too easy to blame it on someone else or parents, or we do have that choice. Absolutely. And that's quite freeing, really, to think of it like that.
Yeah. I think Marissa Peers is the one that says, tell yourself a better lie, because they're all lies. Everything that you say in your head, you're making up. Two people can have the exact same experience, and they will both walk away from it and tell the story differently. It's like the blind man and the elephant. It just,
Absolutely.
we don't, none of us perceives everything exactly the same. So if you make up a different story about the meaning that we give it, because that's really what we remember, is the meaning that we've attached to whatever the experience was, you can always change that meaning. And in that way, you change history, really, and you change the impact that that event has on the people that were involved in the event also, because as you remember it differently, you help them remember it differently, or they can feel different about it. So you change history.
It has a ricochet effect. Absolutely. And it's so true that, in that moment you do have that choice. And also that if we do start doing that as parents, then our children learn that they see us doing that, we're okay. It's about admitting our mistakes and thinking, okay, so how could I have done that differently? Or how can I do that differently next time is the most important thing. Because we're all just, as we go through life, we're learning, we're experiencing. We never actually get to the perfect end product. We're always, on that journey. So yeah, it's so important that we do that. And even if you don't do any other sort of mindset work, one of the questions that you can ask yourself in a certain situation, okay, so how could I read that differently? How could I see that differently? How could I just asking yourself those questions really helps.
And how can I feel about that differently?
Yeah.
If I'm feeling, and I'm not saying to deny your feelings about things, but if you experience something and you have a feeling that doesn't feel good to you, then maybe you need to look at it and think, how can I have this experience mean something that's more empowering for me?
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it has to suddenly be a good experience, but there's something good about everything that you experience. There may be bad, but if you attach to the bad stuff, you're just going to find more evidence about the bad stuff. Your brain wants to prove you right. So you may as well pick the little tiny thing, because sometimes that's all you can hang on to is that's that little tiny thing that was really
Yeah.
good about the experience.
Yeah.
And then your brain will help you fill in the rest. But you gotta help it.
Absolutely. And then what you're doing, because you're looking for that little tiny little silver lining, you're creating new neural pathways in your brain. And as your brain starts to use those new pathways, it becomes easier. And then before you know it, throughout your day, you're starting to look for those little tiny glimmers of hope. And so your life starts to feel different. So from one small thing.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
It's a life-changing skill if you can develop it. And if you can teach your kids or your grandkids this skill, they're going to have phenomenal lives.
Absolutely. And it really is just little things, just little ways of doing things differently. And just simple things like having a little gratitude practice, 3 things at the end of the day that I'm grateful for. And even if it was a really bad day, there's always something. There's that nice cup of coffee in the morning, or whatever it happened to be. Someone smiled at me, anything. But there's always something that we can write down at the end of the day, something that we were grateful for, which is a really good practice to get into, something that helps you start to look for those positives in your life.
And when you're having a really bad day, the thing that I homeschooled 3 of my kids, and a couple of them would be having a terrible, bad, horrible, no good, very bad day. It comes from a book. Alexander's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
We love that around here. But when
Yeah.
you're having those kinds of days, if you sit down and you write out 50 things that you're grateful for, I don't care if it's your fingernails and your eyelashes, put it down on the paper. You have
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something, isn't there? And it's a great thing to train your kids to do as well. It's something that I've done with my daughters. Now she's in her teens, she's kind of left it behind, but I know that it's in there, and I know that as she gets older, it'll settle, maybe come back, oh, I know, I'll stop doing that again. That's my hope. Yeah.
You give them tools, and they do reuse them. They surface back around at
They do.
interesting times. I have one son. I gave him a book when he was 19, 18 or 19. And it was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he read that book, and now he's close to 40, and he has put it into action. And I know
Yeah.
it was that book because he told me he read the book many years ago.
Yeah.
And then I can see his life today based on something that I gave him a long time ago. I think you would enjoy this book, read it.
Wow, that's a gift. No,
What's a
isn't
gift?
it? Yeah. Wonderful.
I thank Robert for writing the book. All I had to do was give it to him, and he read it. He did all the work.
Yes,
He just was able to take something, and I only bring this up as an example for, the little things that you do as a parent early on really does have a huge impact later in life for your kids.
absolutely. It does. It does. And you give them those little seeds, and then, later on it's up to them, whether they fly with it or not. But generally, if you've imprinted it in there, when my daughter was young, I've had a meditation practice for many years. And she used to have a corner in her wardrobe that she said was her meditation area when she was very little, which I thought was lovely. And that obviously that's long since gone now, but I know it's there. I know, it's a practice that she's got in her tool belt, to use later. But yeah, all these little things, you sow the seeds.
Yeah. And then you just wait and watch. It's garden time in my neighborhood. I love to throw seeds out in my garden, and then I never mark them, and I'm not very precise when I plant stuff. I have like areas where
Yeah,
some vegetables will go, and
yeah,
I'm always surprised when they come up and they're the little tiny
wonderful.
leaves, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what those are going to be. I think that's this, and I forgot what the other four things I planted over here are.
Yeah, it's
And
so
now I can't
exciting.
wait to
I'm
find
a
out.
gardener as well. I love my garden. So yeah, it's really exciting when these things start to come up. We have the same here. Yeah. And you never quite remember what they were, but you know what? That doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah, it's just so fun.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get stuff that we call it volunteer that comes from years past, seeds that you put down and you forgot about. And then
Hmm.
suddenly you've got this plant that you never even expected. I, I,
Yeah.
I just
I
love
think
it when
that's a
that
lovely,
happens.
lovely metaphor for life, isn't it?
Mhm,
Really
it
lovely.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've learned so much in the garden. The garden was like my first life coach.
Yes. Oh yeah. There's a lot to be learned from that about nurturing and yeah.
Weeding.
And yeah.
Weeds
Well,
are
your
like
mind
thoughts.
is it's like you're weeding your mind a lot of the time, aren't you? You're putting your mind onto the more positives and weeding out the more negatives. And yeah, there's an awful lot to be compared to gardening and growing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. So I know you offer a free anxiety SOS gift on your
I do.
website. You want to talk a
I
little bit
do.
about that?
Yeah, so on my website, I have a free anxiety SOS, which is downloadable. It's a video of me bringing various techniques that you can just bring into daily life, to feel a little calmer on a daily basis. And there's a few techniques on there. Some may resonate more, some less. So it's up to you to choose which ones that you want to take, or to choose all of them to take into daily life. But that's free. It's a free resource if anybody wants to download it.
That's
It's
awesome.
lizmurraycoaching.com.
Thank you for that. And we will make sure we put that in the show notes. And you can find that on the homepage if you scroll down just a little bit.
Sure,
Um,
yeah, right there, it's near the bottom of the homepage. And I also have a contact page on there, and also if anybody wants to discuss any my program or anything, there's also the chance to have a free conversation with myself. You can book that in as well if that's something that someone wishes to do.
that is awesome. I'm going to ask you one other question, and it has to do with anxiety, because I know
Sure.
anxiety is really prevalent in the world
Yeah,
right now. Why do
yeah.
you think that is?
I think there's a number of reasons for that at the moment. I think it's because we have a very instant society. So I think that people are expected to do things instantly, whereas years ago, because we didn't have the technology we have, you didn't have those demands. I think we're always reachable now, whereas before you'd go home, people can't get you unless you answer the phone or whatever. Um, And I just think as well, we have more pressures from every angle now. There's a lot of comparisonitis from people. There's, which obviously comes from social media, but social media is not all bad, but there's obviously things that form, pressures from it. So I just think that life is faster now, and with it comes an awful lot of pressure. And I just would love people to be themselves more, rather than trying to conform to what it is that we feel that we should be, whatever role that might be. So it's just, because after all, at the end of the day, our life is so short. We have to enjoy it. We have to enjoy the journey, and not constantly be trying to strive to be something else or be somewhere else.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm always interested in what people's opinions about that are, because like I said, I find that there are so many people that are anxious these days. And I think as midlife women, you can fall into the I don't care what anybody thinks category, or there's the I should be something else by this point category.
Yes.
And
yes.
For me personally, I think when you start feeling anxious about things, that you are probably in that I should be category. And
yes,
no, you really shouldn't be anything.
Absolutely.
You can just be.
Yeah. It's making those judgments on yourself and feeling that you should be somewhere else, or should be. And should is actually a word that I try and keep out of my vocabulary. It's something I consciously, when I hear myself saying the word should, I think, no, I replace it with could, or I replace it with something else. Because I think the way we talk to ourselves in such a harsh way, in a way that we probably would never talk to anybody else, especially midlife women do this, make these judgments on ourselves. And I think it's really important to be aware of that and just be a little bit more accepting of where we are and how we're feeling. And it's okay to have a bad day too. However we are, it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So I've really enjoyed this conversation. What's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from our conversation today?
I think I would love really for people to take away that it's okay to want more when you reach midlife, especially as the midlife woman. It's okay. You don't have to settle. And yes, we've often spent many years putting other people's needs first, but it's actually okay to want more. And don't feel guilty for that, because we can. And it's not too late. You absolutely can change, and you absolutely can create a new life for yourself. Whatever your situation, it's possible.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.